Hello, hello. I'm so glad to be back with another episode. I've been fighting a cold that initially got me paranoid thinking it was COVID. But fortunately, it was just a terrible cold. Last week's episode was so good. I got people telling me how much they love hearing from regular people talk about their super awesome projects and stories. And by the way, not just the positive things, but also the negative. I think it gives a sense of realness and unity. We can all do amazing things while still be dealing with problems such as imposter syndrome or insecurities. Which is why I'm pumped to introduce you to my next guest. Her name is Bailey Burns. She is an Aerospace Systems Engineer working to get humans back on the moon. She focuses on life support for extreme environments. Basically, she works on keeping astronauts alive in space. One thing I learned from interviewing many women in this field is that space is definitely trying to kill you. She works on a lot of very cool projects, such as developing the Lunar Lander, which is meant to go back up to the moon. Definitely one of the most crucial parts of the Artemis Mission. We also discussed representation. Last year, we got amazing news. NASA announced a team of 18 astronauts that will be part of the Artemis Program, which is the program taking us back to the moon. Of those 18 astronauts, half are women. Among them, there are Black women, an Iranian American, and an LGBT astronaut. I'm loving it. We discuss her college years, the steps she took to gain experience, we discuss imposter syndrome, and how sometimes the backlash women may face can come from other women. She tells us her desires to go to space and her experience on being an analog astronaut, which is a program to train, research, and learn stuff you would need to do if you were in space. Bailey is also an ambassador for Rubiks Cube and wants to be the first person to solve a Rubik's Cube on space. So let's manifest that for her, shall we? Let's welcome Bailey Burns. Hi, Bailey. How are you? Thank you so much for doing this interview.
I'm good. It's so good to see you again.
Yay! I know it's been a while, but I'm very, very excited. I've been wanting to do this interview for a while, especially since I found you and I read about you and everything, and I was super curious and I got lots to ask you. So let's start from the beginning. What is your major?
I have a BS degree in mechanical engineering with a minor in business and economics, and I'm actually currently pursuing a master's, an MS, in space resources. So I should be graduating in May of 2021. So just a few more months, I guess.
Just around the corner.
Yeah, I'm almost there.
Oh my gosh. So what is that like? Because obviously it's getting your master's is way different than getting your undergraduate. I'm sure you have a lot of projects going on.
Yes. I would say grad school and undergrad, like they're two different animals. It's kind of like, I don't know, like almost like middle school to high school. You know what I mean? It's just a different feeling. So it's been a lot. I'm actually working full-time and going to school part-time. So just balancing everything. When you're in grad school, it's all about like, you're the one that's in charge. It's no longer the professor's holding your hand to like, have you turn in homework assignments and do the reading. It's all up to you. And if you fail, they're like, nah, that's on you. So yeah, it's a lot. But yeah, you said projects. I have so many projects, so many group projects. The coolest one I'm working on right now, we actually just got we submitted an idea to NASA's Big Idea Challenge. And about 2 weeks ago, we found out we actually were awarded the win. So we're actually working on developing it now. It's a lunar launch and landing pad. So that's a really, really exciting kind of cutting edge kind of thing that we get to work on.
Congratulations. And yes, I read about it, which we will get to in a minute, but so exciting. How did you decide you wanted to pursue this major or this career in general?
I mean, people ask me that all the time. And what I always say is I wish I had a good origin story. Everyone talks about, they watched this movie or their dad or their uncle was an aerospace engineer and they just knew it was for them. I have nothing like that. I basically... In high school, I thought I was going to be a journalist because I really liked writing and I really liked history.
Yeah.
And then I got into an engineering school. There was no history major. There was nothing. I couldn't do that. So it was either engineering or go to a different school. And I was like, oh, I guess I'll give this a try.
Yeah.
And since didn't go in with any kind of preconceptions or anything like that. I just followed where I was most excited. And then, I mean, space is obviously really exciting. So that's kind of the direction I went towards.
I know, because a lot of people, like, since high school, they, a lot of people seem to know what they want to do exactly. But to you, it sounds like, yeah. Which is super cool, I guess. And then it's even better when you find out you're really good at it,
Mm-hmm.
So how did you choose your university? Was it something like, just like choosing your career? Was it something like, oh, I'll just go here? Or did you actually have to go through a process to getting admitted and everything?
Yeah, I actually looked at a lot of different schools and a lot of different places. I kind of liked the idea of engineering, so I did look at schools that had both engineering and other things. This is one of the top engineering schools in the nation, and it was right in my backyard, so I could stay in Colorado. And the people there were like excited to learn, which is not actually all that common. Even like at a college level, people kind of feel like it's an obligation. No one's really excited to learn. So I went there, they were excited. The weird thing that I did is I looked at people's shoes. Like, if I went to a preppy school and they were wearing preppy shoes, or if I went to like an outdoorsy school, like I kind of judged it that way. And like at my school, they were wearing like Vans and Converse. And I was like, these are my people. These are like the down to earth, just engineers. Like,
I love it. I miss that era, the Converse era.
Right?
Because I feel like people no longer, I feel like there's not, kids these days are not wearing them enough, I think. I don't know, but I miss them.
We'll bring them back. Yeah, we'll bring them back.
And they're so comfy too. Like I used to wear them with everything. I even wore it with a dress one time.
Oh, me too. All the time. Yep.
Yeah. Awesome. So that's cool. So while in college, did you face any difficulties like getting used to your program or any classes, or was it like pretty smooth for you?
No. Yeah, it was not smooth. I think I had a different struggle in college than most people have, because like I said, I went to a very, very highly intelligent people went to this college. And I remember I've always struggled with school. In high school, I had to study, I had to make note sheets and stuff like that. So I remember freshman year actually having to teach some of the smartest people I've ever met. I had to sit them down and teach them how to study because they've never had to. And now it's like starting to get more challenging and they had to actually study. So I didn't actually struggle with that side as much, but I did struggle a lot with like the imposter syndrome. Like I said, like these were the most intelligent people. Like I can't even tell you. And I'm like sitting next to them and, we get our test back and I'm just like, oh. So it was a lot of that kind of like figuring out, even if my place wasn't technical, where I could value in the engineering world.
I remember because I went to school for finance and like there were classes that were, to me, they were super tough. And like after an exam, after we got our grades, I would like look at my exam and be like, this is like, how did I, mess this up? And then my classmates were like, oh, I got an 83, like, no big deal, 95. And I'm like struggling under 75. Oh my gosh.
I've been there too.
Oh my God. So did you take any internships after or during college, or you just focused on your studies?
I did. I had an internship for 2 summers at the same place. It was at maybe Robotics, which is a great company, focusing really on a lot of like the space mechanisms and robotics and that kind of stuff moving forward. So working there was incredible. I got to work on like the Orion capsule, on OneWeb. Being an intern at the time, I didn't know what I was doing, and I probably I wish I could have gotten more out of that experience because I just didn't know. But like looking back at it, I was working with some really cool people.
It sounds like it. So what are the things that you got from that? Like what kind of skills do you think you learned from that experience?
Weirdly enough, I think the biggest thing I learned was that I'm not going to be a typical engineer. This is very much like design analysts, that kind of like CAD modeling and stuff like that. And I didn't really like that. And so I thought I was like going to be a failure of an engineer. And then I found how many other flavors of engineers there are. Now I'm a systems engineer, and that much more fits with my personality. So I think that's the biggest thing I took. And then the other thing, just being in an office setting and like asking why and how, people don't always learn that.
So, now you are a systems engineer and your work sounds like a pretty big deal. Tell us a little bit about it. What is it that you do now?
Yeah, I am a systems engineer for a company called Paragon Space. We focus on the life support for extreme environments, which, space being about as extreme as you can get. So yeah, we do oxygen, pressure, CO2, O2, keeping astronauts alive in space, basically. And it's not the glamorous side of space. It's not the rocket launches and like that kind of stuff. But it's just such a fascinating way to like tie everything together to be like, okay, now how are we as humans going to do this? How are we going to stay alive in space? And I can't even tell you how much I've learned from this, how much confidence I've gotten from my job. It's just been absolutely amazing.
It has to be such a huge responsibility too, knowing that I mean, not just only for you, but in general for the company or whoever is running this project, that, your work, basically the lives of astronauts depend on what you do and how well you do it.
Yeah, there's a little bit of pressure there. I'm not going to lie. It does feel a little bit like that. I mean, when you look at an entire system, yeah, everyone's role has a crucial piece in the astronaut's life, but ours is quite literally like they won't be able to get oxygen to breathe. Yeah. So one of the cool projects we're working on right now that I'm on specifically is HLS. So that's the Lunar Lander that's going to go back down to the moon. One of the most crucial parts of the Artemis mission. We have one of the proposals for that. We're doing the eclipse for Dianetics. So doing something like that, like I said, it's like that's a lot riding on it, but it's like it's for the future. It's absolutely amazing.
That's super, super cool. And like once you win this, like do you immediately start working on it? Like, are there any other like steps you have to follow before you start working on this project, or you basically just were given a green light?
Yeah. So they actually gave, the way this worked, there was 3 companies: SpaceX, Blue Origin's team, basically, and then us, Dianetics. I think we're kind of the underdog. No one really knows what's going on with Dianetics, but I think that's for the best. I like it. I like a challenge,
Yeah. But do you guys go like, oh shit, we won't, now what? Like, you actually have to do it,
I don't know about Dianetics, but at least like with my college team, like when we won the NASA proposal for Big Idea, we were like, oh crap, now we have to deliver.
Yeah, exactly. No pressure there.
Yeah. So like, I think the way NASA did this is they awarded enough money to these 3 companies to actually get some serious development. Like no matter who wins and who loses and stuff like that, every single company has enough to develop a viable future. So, I mean, we have been doing work and this could lead to something bigger in the future. If and when we win, it'll be very much, they might down select it too, and then we'll have to go through another process and go through it again. But it's basically like we pretend like we've won it and we pretend like we're going to the moon, and we take it very seriously until we hear one way or another.
That's so exciting. And the fact that there is actually a project that's going to the moon and it's real, it's like so amazing because like, how long has it been since the last time somebody did something like that? And it's just like amazing. And I saw posts from other people that are also in your field talking about how there's even diversity, on the team that is going to the moon. There are more females, and it's like super, super exciting. It's like a new era. So
it's so exciting because I think we needed Apollo when it happened. You know what I mean? Like, I think that was very valuable. And similar to that, I think Artemis is going to be crucial in the next phase of humanity, and diversity included in that. But just the sustainability, the hope, the diversity, all those things, I think are really getting rolled into one mission.
That's super cool. On your Instagram, you said you're an analog astronaut, which I'm very curious to ask you about. Like, what exactly does that mean? And can you give us an example of what that, what you do? Like what does it mean to be an analog astronaut?
Yeah, for sure. This is kind of a newer term kind of coming up. And an analog is basically a simulated environment. So becoming an analog astronaut means that I went and I lived in a simulated moon base for 2 weeks. It was on the side of a volcano in Hawaii. And we basically had limited communication to the outside world. We ate dehydrated food. Whenever we went outside, we had to wear our spacesuits. And it was basically like, what would it be like to be on a 2-week mission on the moon? And yeah, I learned a lot there. The organization's called High Seas. I know they're accepting applications. So like, go check them out, especially if you're kind of like, could I be an astronaut? This is your chance to figure it out. It's cool. One of those that you really put yourself under a microscope.
And what did you guys do for 2 weeks? I mean, like, was it easy? Did you adapt? I mean, like, because obviously, outside from the training and everything that you have to do, you still have to also adapt to your new environment and like your new habits, like even getting ready and eating and like, was it hard for you to eat dehydrated food?
I mean, there were times when, when you like put something in your mouth and you're like chewing it and you're like, I don't want to eat this.
Yeah,
Like,
but I have to. Oh my
there
gosh.
were those moments specifically. I'm going to call out the beans, dehydrated beans and dehydrated chicken,
Oh,
not food.
really?
Yeah, it was not good. But yeah, I think in general, it was like, I was surprised how easily I adapted to like the actual like living situation, and I kind of found my routine and my schedule. Keep in mind, I went in September of 2020, so I'd been kind of in quarantine, or at least very minimal interaction with humans for I don't know how many months that is, and then you go to living with 5 other people
Oh,
in
wow.
close proximity, and it's one of those you have to like readjust to not only having my
Yeah.
you know. But yeah, it
You're
was
forced
absolutely
to interact with them too, which is a new thing.
part of it is literally there's nowhere to go. If you have an
Yeah.
issue with someone, you
You have to
like
deal with it.
you're right there. Like
Oh
we
my
did a lot of
goodness.
yeah. So we did a lot of games. There's a lot of like crew bonding. And then we did a lot of research. Specifically we explored lava tubes, which oh man, I could talk about that for a while because little known fact, there's actually lava tubes on the moon and Mars. And people are looking at them as just first of all to tell us a lot about the history of how both of those celestial bodies formed, tell us everything we kind of don't know based off of what we know on Earth. We can kind of make assumptions. And then the other thing is they actually are really good. They put us in a good position for maybe some habitats down the line. They're away from, Martian windstorms. They keep you out of solar radiation, all this kind of stuff. They really just kind of solve a lot of problems. So a lot of people are looking at lava tubes. So this analog mission specifically was amazing because we got to go explore them here on Earth.
That's
So
super
just
cool.
kind of pretending like one day I could maybe go walk around the lava tubes on the moon or something like that. That was like a cool thing in my head.
So how did they choose Hawaii? Is it something that people already like have it set, or do they like explore areas depending on the kind of projects you're going to be doing? Like, how does that work?
So there's different organizations that do this. I know there's some in like the Utah desert. There's one in Poland, I think. This one in Hawaii. You get different things with each place you go based off of where you go. And the one in Hawaii has a huge emphasis on geology because of the lava and the lava tubes and stuff like that. And I'm very interested in planetary geology. So that was one of the reasons I kind of linked up there. Other ones can focus on other things based off of their environment, or maybe it's more of a crew kind of cohesion exercise. But this one was really heavily on geology.
Awesome. I like that. I imagine that working on, testing different approaches and investigating and or trying to solve something means that you're also failing. What is your approach to dealing with failure?
That's a really good question. I've definitely dealt with a lot of failure in my life. So I think the kind of thing that I've done, because I'm the type of person that like I'll get in my own head about it and I'll just kind of keep playing it over and over again. Yeah. So bad. If you're one of those people, you got to stop. It's so bad to do.
I tend to do that too. And I'm like, stop it.
So bad for you. But what I kind of realized is moving forward is, in a sense, you treat life kind of like a game. You kind of just, if it happens, it happens. Kind of go with the flow a little bit. And I focus on what I'm doing. That obviously the thing I can control is me. And so if I'm acting within my integrity, I knew I tried my hardest, I didn't put anyone else down or things like that. As long as I did that and I learned something out of it, I really don't count it as a failure. So by that extent, I think it's been a very long time since I've actually failed at something because of how like deep I think about things going into it, and I do try my best. And I mean, at that point, life's just a game and you're just learning as you go.
Yeah. That's super cool. That's a great way to see it. So can you remember like the last time you actually faced a major roadblock or a challenge and you had to work to solve something or overcome? Like what was it and like what did you do?
Yeah, I can answer that in just 1 second. My cat is trying to rub up against my phone right now. So
Yeah.
there we go. You said you can cut that off.
Yeah.
Let's see. So roadblocks. Ooh, that's a good question. Honestly, I think I do face roadblocks fairly frequently. We just had like the Women in Science Day or whatever. And one of the things I talked about on my platform specifically was how very sadly, most of the backlash I've faced in my career is from women, which is so backwards from what you are told, that you're going to be facing the old white guy who's going to try to push you down. And I didn't really find that. So it was really hard to have women being the ones pushing me down, trying to hold me back, trying to tell me I wasn't good enough. So in that sense, I mean, like I said, I've got a lot of different kind of pieces, even more recently of that. But I think the biggest thing I do in those scenarios is I let it affect me. Like I accept that this is affecting me, if that makes sense. Like a lot of people just like ignore it. I think you have to like acknowledge that this is something that's happening. And then from there, you can decide if you want it to control you, or if you want to try to figure out a solution or take the high road or whatever you need to do. But you have to like accept that first and acknowledge that that's happening. And then from there, the biggest thing I found is finding the people who will build you back up. I don't think anyone can really stand back up on them by themselves. So I've worked really hard to build a network that when that does happen, I can keep going. You know what I mean? I have these people that will keep me going.
It's so interesting because I do remember you mentioning that before. Obviously everybody has different experiences around microaggressions and being, in this field and being a woman or being a minority, and it's so interesting. I remember that when you mentioned that it's not necessarily like the typical stereotype, kind of situation that some people face, but like I'm surprised that also it's happening, women versus women, which you would think that nowadays is like, oh no, girl power, like yeah and it's like it's kind of like in a way paints a different picture, but actually in reality there could be also other women making it hard for you and not necessarily having your back. So you also are working with Project Possum 13, which caught my eye, and it sounds super interesting. I read about it, but to the people that is listening, like, what is Project Possum 13 and how did you get involved with it?
Yeah, the Possum 13 is a group based off of Project Possum, which is a citizen scientist astronaut candidate group, where we focus on doing science in the mesosphere. And it's an organization that really tries to bring space to everyone. And the Possum 13 is a group, a spinoff of that group in tribute to the Mercury 13, which the Mercury 13 were 13 women who went through the same testing that the Mercury astronauts went through, but they were never selected to go to space. So it's a very big, what we just talked about, kind of the sexism in the industry and stuff, and overcoming that. And I think that's something that the Possum 13, their mission statement really aligns with that. And they try to bring science and space mostly to high school and middle school girls, but they really try to open up that platform for women.
That's so cool. And it has to be super, super amazing to see all these young people applying with all this, excitement and wanting to be part of this. And I read that, you also like, there's like a winner, maybe like after a whole, application process, there's somebody who gets to experience like what you guys would experience if you go on the air or like fly something. So like, do you ever like get to interact with each member, or how does that work? Like in you being part of this project, like what is your role in this?
So, well, first of all, exactly what you're talking about. It's more of a competition where teams of high school girls are encouraged to submit projects that could fly on a parabolic flight in microgravity. So it's simulated microgravity, not actually going to space, but you get about 20 seconds to do some experiments of like, what does liquid do and that kind of stuff. So we take applications from all over the world, and then we pick a winner and they get to fly their project on this parabolic flight, which is absolutely amazing to watch these young girls just like, I mean, seriously, the teams that I worked with, they were so organized. Like if I had them on group projects in college, I would have gotten A's because they were like on top of it. It was really cool to watch. And so, yeah, just being able to kind of interact with the girls like that was absolutely amazing.
That's super cool. I love, and I saw pictures too. You know, I had to do a little bit of research before interviewing you, and it sounds amazing. It just sounds amazing, like everything around this project, because definitely, like, to an outsider, you know, somebody who's not in your field, somebody who's not exactly graduated with a engineering or some sort of, you know, it sounds kind of foreign, the idea, and also impossible a little bit. Like, oh my God, this project sounds really, really cool, but also like hard to reach. So for somebody young to be part of that, it sounds pretty cool. So how did you become an ambassador for Rubiks? Because I saw that too, and I was like, oh my gosh. And I saw your videos, which are super, super cool. I enjoy them. And personally, you know, like I like the type of content that you create is amazing, but like, obviously you're doing it for a purpose. Like what is the whole reason behind this Rubiks project?
I have an unsolved cube right now. I was actually about half done solving it.
Oh my gosh.
That up sometime. But yeah, I actually learned to solve the Rubik's Cube when I was in 7th grade, before I got into STEM and space, back when I thought I was going to be a writer back then. Yeah, I had a 7th grade teacher who said, hey, if you want to learn how to solve the Rubik's Cube, you know, bring your lunch to my classroom one day a week. And so we all would, and we would like learn how to solve a cube. And ever since then, it's just been like, you know, when you're playing like 2 truths and a lie, I always said, I can solve a Rubik's Cube, because like, it's just one of those things, you know, people, it's kind of unique. And then I started thinking about it, and, you know, my whole goal is to go to space, and I'm basically doing everything I can to get little pieces of experiences that can lend me to being a very successful astronaut. And one of those pieces is flying in microgravity, that parabolic flight that we just talked about. And so I decided, hey, I really want to do that. So I'm looking for opportunities to do that, and it's very expensive. So I'm talking to like 0G right now, which is a great company and stuff like that. But I talked to Rubiks. I just reached out to them. I was like, hey, I'm a space girl. I'm looking for money to do this thing. And I think Rubiks, if I do a Rubik's Cube, will you sponsor me so that, you know, like you get something, I get something. Yeah. And it turned into this like amazing ordeal of like, they wanted me to be kind of their STEM ambassador, because they don't often have women, let alone like women in STEM doing engineering, doing Rubik's Cube things. And so I think it was just a really good mix of they needed a STEM voice, I had a STEM voice, and we kind of are coming together to hopefully create something that says, look, space is fun, STEM is fun, have fun while you do it. It's literally a toy, but it's like also teaching me so much, you know. Exactly. So I could go on and on about Rubiks. I think the company's great. I think working with them has been amazing, and I'm hoping, you know, one day maybe I'll be like the first person to do a Rubik's Cube in space or on the moon or something like that. That would be
so cool. Like, I can already picture it. Right? No, yeah, like, oh, you know, Bailey in the space building a Rubik's. Like, I could already see the content for it. But that's so exciting how you like reached out to them instead of like waiting for somebody, you know, to do it or approach you. And you just went for it, which I love. And I love that they were open-minded about it too. I mean, also they happen to need somebody in STEM, but in general, I mean, I feel like a lot of companies nowadays, they tend to be like reserved and see what they can get out of it first. And like, but like, you know, it's cool in general. And you also did a giveaway. How did that happen? Like, did you have to ship the products, or did they do it? Like, because I saw a picture with you and a bunch of things, and I was like, is she going to ship them? Like, because it's hard to. I
ended up shipping it, and it was more expensive than I expected, especially because I had it international. So that was a fun one, but it was great. I love doing it, and I mean, the biggest thing is a lot of people have been so supportive of just like. I mean, I was a space girl, and then all of a sudden I'm talking about Rubik's Cubes, and people are like, what's going on there, Bailey? You lost us there. So I think the fact that I've gotten so much enthusiasm and excitement from people, that was one of the reasons I did it. The other reason, I'm going to be completely honest, I'm an ambassador for Rubik's Cube. I kept getting sent Rubik's Cubes. I had so many duplicates. At one time, I had 35 Rubik's Cubes in my apartment unopened. And I was like, I need to do this. I don't need all this. So like literally part of it was like, I have followers who've been amazing and I have lots of cubes. Let's do this.
No, you seem to have a pretty loyal following. Like, did you ever, I mean, I know it's obviously when you have fans and you have friends following you, you build such a good energy around you, but like, do you ever get, hate messages or like, all this like, hater vibe to people telling you, hey, what are you doing? Or you shouldn't be doing this or talking about this. Like, do you ever get those messages?
Oh yeah. And I think if you'll talk to any sort of space, women in STEM, any space creator, I mean, one of the most common is people talking about the earth is flat and like all that stuff. And it's like,
no way.
Like, okay, you can go over there, whatever. But yeah, I mean, actually one of the biggest like points of my backlash in that kind of sense was when I started doing the Rubik's Cube. People told me, like, I mean, I literally got comments like, no one likes your content. I got the, like, you should go kill yourself. Like all this stuff. Like, it's a Rubik's Cube. Like, are you kidding me? So I think, yeah, it's something that, and I talk to a lot of people who want to become like science communicators and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And it's like, it happens. I wish I could say it doesn't, or you have some magical cure to not care. It happens. You just, honestly, I had a friend of mine, his name's Mike. He's a great guy. He's a content creator as well. And he's like, I have the secret. It's a beautiful little block button. And people are usually too scared to use it. But you just, if they don't matter, you just block them. You don't need that,
Yeah. Honestly, that's my biggest fear because I'm like, okay, I'm getting ready to launch this podcast, but eventually like you'll find somebody who definitely hates the topics or is like closed-minded or it's just not their like kind of content. And I'm like, how would you deal with that? And I think of all these people, including you, that are already exposed and they already have a following and there's so there are so many cool things to learn and learn from people, and it's like, of course, there's one person that is going to take their time, to comment and say those mean things like, oh my gosh, like definitely you have to be also, like, I guess, have a strong, what do you call that? Like not take things personally, because of course there are people out there who become affected by it and it makes you question the things that you do. So like, do you ever I know you said you experienced imposter syndrome, but like, does it ever hit you hard in a way that you're like, all right, what am I doing? Am I ever going to be an astronaut? Like, is the information that I'm sharing crazy, silly? Like, do you ever get that?
Oh my God. Are you kidding me? All the time. And especially the astronaut thing is like, I don't want people almost expecting me to go to space because it is like winning the lottery. I mean, just over 500 people have gone to space in history. So think about how many people have lived, like not just right now, like have lived in general, and only 500 of them have gone to space. So I know that's going to open up. And I do have faith that, someone will see what I can bring to the table and, give me that opportunity. But like, yeah, it's really hard because I don't want my followers to think like I'm misleading them if I never go to space or something like that. It's difficult. And actually, I mean, I'm comfortable talking about this. One of the things I really push is like mental health and stuff. And I just came off of like probably 4 or 5 months of just like depression, like very much revolving around this of like, do people even want to hear my voice? Like, am I actually making a difference? Like, do people even care? And a lot of it came from the comments. A lot of it came from female backlash in the industry. All the things we've already talked about. And so like, I mean, all I can say is like one day, probably about 2 weeks ago, I woke up and was like, I'm done. Like, I'm done in a bad sense. I'm done in like, I'm tired of thinking like this. It's time for me to get back out there. I needed to have that time, but it's time for me to get rolling again. And so I'm feeling a lot better now, but I mean, it happens all the time. And I don't want people thinking, there's anything wrong with that, or that, if you never become an astronaut, so what? You can still do some pretty awesome things,
Right. Yeah. It has to be hard, definitely. And, of course, it feels like you're building this, I don't know, momentum and leading people to something great. And then of course people, some people take it very seriously, but I feel like at the end of the day, it's your life and it's okay if you do it and if you don't, but their comments shouldn't really be the, what
that's one of the
rules,
things
yeah.
with social media is it's like it's my account. I get to choose the content I put out there. I get to choose who gets to follow me in that sort of sense. And yeah, I think kind of what you were talking about, you mentioned it. You feel that fear of like, what are people going to think? The one thing that really gets me through is I kind of, for every one person out there that's like wants to push me down or, wants to throw those negative comments out, if I just put a little bit out there into the world and say, hey, I'm hurting right now, I immediately have 10 people who are there by my side. Like, what can I do to help you? So for me, it's for every one, there's 10. And whenever I get that kind of feeling in my stomach, I realize that what I'm working towards is building a community that will lift me back up, and that I will lift them as well. So I think if you have that kind of support behind you, those one comments are, no one cares about those. Those are just noise.
Oh my gosh, I love that. Definitely. So, speaking of becoming an astronaut, it seems definitely like a challenging road and almost, it's like winning the lottery, you said it. What kinds of things do they look for? I mean, if we look back and look at the characteristics and the pattern of all the, astronauts, like what kinds of things are they looking for? Like, are there any extraordinary abilities that you have to have, or is it more based on experience? Like, what have you seen so far?
So this is a really good question. And anyone you talk to, you can talk to astronauts who have made it, and you can talk to the people sitting at NASA on the selection committee. And I don't think anyone could answer that question for you. I think it changes with time. I think it changes based off of what's going on. And just, I don't know, just it changes. So when we first started, they were looking for test pilots. It was test pilots, test pilots, test pilots, nobody else, military only. And then we kind of shifted into this, okay, fine, we need some pilots and stuff like that. But we also need scientists to do the research in microgravity up on the ISS and stuff like that, and start doing that kind of experimentation. Going back, as we go back to the moon and onto Mars, we're probably going to need a lot of geologists, and as we start to do sustainable living, we're going to need doctors, we're going to need food experts, we're going to need nutritionists. All these types of people who probably never thought they could go to space are the exact kind of people we're going to need. So in that sense, I think it's amazing. First of all, I think that's so cool to think that we're really going to be building a civilization. Like every piece of the civilization here on Earth is going to need to be in space. So like everyone has an opportunity to go eventually. But in terms of like, let's say I'm applying to be an astronaut right now, they have some requirements. You have to have a master's degree, which is one of the reasons I'm excited to graduate finally. They have, most astronauts are still military and have a lot of flight hours and stuff like that. And it does change, but I think the one thing that I've seen very consistently, I think astronauts are very charismatic. I think, and that's not always true, not necessarily charismatic, but I think they work towards a higher purpose. And that would be probably more true closer to modern day that we get, that you have to be able to work into a team. You have to be able to, inspire the world. That was kind of like their job for a long time, was making sure that the world was still being inspired. And I think that's the reason, that's why I wanted to be an astronaut. I want to go to space, but like when you look at the career of an astronaut, it's learning things, it's doing experiments, it's floating around in microgravity, and it's inspiring people back here on Earth. And I think when I put all those things together, that's why I was like, astronaut, that's what I want to do.
That sounds super cool. Well, I hope you make it. I'm definitely rooting for you. Now, going to the moon sounds exciting and it's scary at the same time, because it's like, of course, it's normal, like to see all this technology, all this, things going on. But like, I can only imagine in like 5 years, 10 years, and, when more things are going to happen. And then now, we're going to the moon again, and then there's going to be a civilization. Like, what do you think the reaction of people is going to be like? Because a lot of people, like you said, first of all, it kind of sometimes pisses me off when people say, they take their time to go on this like science pages or in accounts and start saying, oh, the Earth is flat, we don't do this, there's no this. And like, how do you think is going to be the reaction when it actually happens?
the first thing is I hope eventually the flat earthers can go to space and we can just finally end that. That's just such a waste of energy anymore. But in terms of the general public, I think, I mean, even we see it now, there's a lot of backlash towards space. Not because people aren't curious, but I mean, they raise a good point of why are we doing all this stuff in space when we have so many issues down here on Earth? And I definitely understand that point of view, but to me, I mean, that's almost like, you know, I don't even know how, like, the right words to say it. Like, why would I look towards my future? You know what I mean? Like, why would I go to college when I'm in high school? You know, it's because that's the next step. That's the next thing we do to grow as like humanity. And so I think, and in that sense, you also have a lot of arguments about, you know, space is going to be, you're going to get so many resources out of space. You're going to get technological developments. And there's all those kind of arguments. So I think once we kind of get the general public on board, I think it'll be a little bit easier. But I think in the next 5 to 10 years, there's going to be a big pull between should we go to space or should we stay back here on Earth? And at the end of the day, I think space will win. But for a while, I think we're going to have some issues there.
Yeah. How long do you think before actual, like, not astronauts, but like regular people can take a flight to space? Oh my gosh.
Well, I think it's going to be a little while for us, like us regular people of, you know, I still have student loans to pay off and that kind of stuff. I think millionaires could be going in the next, I mean, I would even say by the end of this year, you know, with the way SpaceX is moving, the way Virgin Galactic's moving, people, non-astronauts can go to space pretty soon. I think we'll probably see suborbital spaceflight take off in probably like 5 to 10 years. And it's going to become a way to travel because you can get to places like, you know, New York to China in like an hour with suborbital flight. And so when you think about it that way, similar to when we did invent the airplane and suddenly the world became that much smaller in a sense that you could go anywhere a lot faster. You're going to see that even more. And I think that's going to be really cool. I think it'll still be expensive, but I think in like 10 to 20 years, I think if you really had to get to China, you could buy a ticket real quick like that.
Oh my gosh.
I think that'll be really cool. And then I think my guess is probably 20 years or so, depending on how Artemis goes. I think you could say 15 to 20 years. You could start seeing average civilians getting jobs in space, you know, janitors on the moon. You need flight attendants on suborbital flight, that kind of stuff.
That's crazy. I mean, to think about that, it's like,
isn't it cool?
Oh my gosh. I mean, I am very pro science, so I think I'm going to be loving it. But I feel like there's also going to be people like scared, and just like everything new that happens, like people are going to be like going insane.
It's going to be a battle. Like everyone put on your helmets because it's going to be a battle.
Yeah. It's like a divided country, a divided world. Some people are for it. Some people are like, this is like anti everything. Because some people are just like super upset that you're trying to leave Earth. Like, why would you do that? Like, there's nothing up there. Like, and to me, it sounds cool. Like, if I could like become an astronaut just from day to night, just to go one time to space and look at it, it would be cool, you know. But obviously, it's like,
I mean, that's honestly one of the things, you know, there's so much tension down here on Earth. There's so much war and hatred. And the one thing that astronauts seem to consistently come back with is something called the overview effect, which is when you see Earth from up above and you see there's not actually borders and that this is our home. And the astronauts talk about having this like huge sense of like almost duty to be a better human for this planet.
I know.
And I think the more people who go to space, the more it'll start easing those tensions as well, because people are all having that.
Because, you know, when they say like, oh, you should travel because traveling opens your mind, you see other places. But like, imagine leaving Earth and then looking at it from space and looking at it from a different perspective. It's like how much broader your mind can get after that. Like there are no territories anymore.
Yeah, I love it. That'd be so cool.
And there are people doing it. I mean, like, I follow this account on TikTok and I don't remember the name, but there are people like posting content from space. And I'm like, how, like, do they get internet up there? And this sounds silly, but like, they're just like recording and somebody's posting them for them. I don't know, but it sounds like really cool. And it looks so, I mean, the views are amazing. And, you know, when people say, oh, that's just fake, they're just like editing and like how do you do that?
How can you make it so beautiful?
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
Like there's so much technology that you can just, I don't think you could fake that. But so how about
Mhm.
your family? Like, do they support you? Do they like want you to settle and just find a nice stable job? Like, where are they on all of this?
I've got some space fans in my family. Specifically, I can think of two uncles of mine who kind of had a draw to the side. But in general, my family does not know what to do with me and space. They're just kind of like, we don't know. She's such a space bug, and we've just been like giving her rockets for Christmas, and it just kept going.
Uh,
So, I mean, they've been super supportive. I think they think it's fun and it's cool. I know I teach my parents little things here and there, and then they'll
mhm.
like teach their friends. I've got a niece and nephew who I always give, like, I say I'm pushing my agenda on them for like birthdays and
Mhm.
stuff. I give them like little astronaut flight suits and like a little
Oh,
space shuttle. I'm like trying to like,
yeah.
so I think
Mhm.
they're just excited that I'm excited. I think,
Do
one of
they
the hardest things
understand what you do? Like, do they ever like, or they just like accept it and they're like, okay, as long as you're like doing your thing.
think they're genuinely interested and I think they're willing to learn from me. I don't think they're like, yes, oh, now we're getting master's degrees and whatever. Like, I don't think it's like on the level where they like understand all the time
Hmm.
the words coming
Yeah.
out of my mouth. But they're also very supportive. They ask questions. They ask what's going on in space. They say, oh, I saw this in the news. So what do you think about this? So yeah, I think they've been very supportive, and it's been great. I don't think I'd be able to do quite as much that I am without them. And
Hmm.
I'm like I like moved from Colorado, my hometown. I've never moved more than like an hour away from my family to Arizona, and I think that was like a big moment of like truly my family was like, we understand you're going to have to go away to chase these dreams. You know what I mean? Like, you're going to have to, if you become an astronaut, you're going to have to move to Houston, and then eventually you're going to be on the moon, which is more than a flight away.
Yeah.
That's pretty far. So I think this was a big moment for us of like, if this is going to happen, you're going to have to go chase them, and we'll always be here. We'll always be back in Colorado for you, but you have to go chase your
Oh, that's super cool. I love
Mhm.
Colorado, by the way. I've always only been once to Estes Park, but I loved it. I just like
So beautiful.
nature is everything to me. Oh my gosh, my microphone. Where I'm from, I was born and raised in Peru, so I was always surrounded by nature. So when I moved to the
So
US,
pretty there, yeah.
yeah, and I moved to Florida, which is like flat, and there are only palm trees. And my boyfriend took me for my birthday on a trip to Colorado, and I was like, oh my god, it was like being in Peru again, and I just love it. I love it.
The mountains and everything, yeah, I'm sure.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was super cool. But I wish, I could go back again. But with this pandemic and everything, I feel like everything got interrupted. Everything got in the way.
Yeah.
So, but
Maybe
I would
maybe in a
love.
few years when everything calms
Yeah.
down.
Oh, I would go back definitely. So you said something super interesting to me, and you were like, "Oh, I kind of pushing my agenda and my cousins and everything." What is one thing that you think maybe schools could do better, or more to encourage young people, young girls to kind of pursue careers in STEM or become more interested in space or being an astronaut or working in the field?
trained to think they can't do this stuff.
Exactly. And like once you introduce topics to them that sound cool and are like science in general is super cool, I feel like a whole new generation would be like interested in space and like God knows what kinds of things they could like create in the future, And I don't know if you ever seen this show called Lost in Space on Netflix, but I watched it and it was like for me like thinking this could be literally us in like a few years, maybe not in 5 or 10, but like in the future, this is going to be the new normal.
Yeah, this could be.
And children are going to have to learn about, I'm sure, like other environments and like survival skills too, like, or like I can imagine like people getting married and having kids in space. Like one day building a new colony.
Born off of this earth. That is going to be an important person right there. Okay, like.
I read somewhere like if you were born in space, you would no longer be. What do we call ourselves? Like,
I don't know. Like you're almost
something. Like you would be an alien, literally.
Yeah, you're an alien, like literally. Yeah. And I mean, that's probably going to happen a lot. That's definitely going to happen in our lifetime.
By the way, I'm sure you got this question at one point, but like, do you think we're alone in this universe? Or
I love that question. Honestly, in everything that I've kind of come to learn and everything like that, I don't see how we could be the only ones in terms of probability, in terms of, what makes life and stuff like that, and what makes the sustainable environment, all those things combined. It's like, there's a lot of different theories about, if we are the most intelligent life out there, if, that's a different kind of question, but there's no way there's not something else out there, and I'm just so excited for when we finally get to see what else is out there.
I know. Because the universe is so vast and huge. So like, how can there not be anything else out there?
So big. And I mean, that being said, I'm not saying that life, like the way we got to where we are is like in terms of humanity is just an insane concept in and of itself. Like life is so precious and it is so strange that we ended up this way. Yeah. But at the same time, the universe is big enough that it probably happened somewhere else too.
I know. Exactly. Oh my gosh. Just to think about it gives me a headache sometimes. But it's cool, in a good way. Yeah, definitely. So switching a little bit of the topic to you, what does a day in the life of a systems engineer look like? Like, what do you do? What is your routine?
Well, lately I've been getting up about 5:30 or so to work out every day. So I just wanted props for that because I'm not the type of person to do that. So I'm very proud that I've been able to do that.
Oh my goodness, that's good.
Yeah, I'm getting my workout in. I'm getting my astronaut fitness. I go into work and it's basically a lot of, honestly, systems engineer is a lot of paperwork and meetings. And I completely understand it's not for every type of engineer. A lot of engineers literally think, oh God, I hope I'm never a systems engineer. Like they literally think that. So it's definitely not the type of engineering for everyone. But for me, at least, it's very much putting together this big picture. I'm a big picture person. I love seeing. I don't necessarily want to know how this one sensor is doing its job and blah, 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 and go into the details of this one sensor, but I'm going to know how this sensor is going to impact my entire system. Yeah. That's the type of person I am. And that's why I like systems engineering, because it shows you this big overview. So I do a lot of meetings with the people that know about this little sensor over here. I meet with them and I get their information, and then I translate that into words that other engineers can understand, the words that non-engineers can understand. And I basically piece it together and paint this giant picture. And I love those meetings because I'm always learning. I love creating the documents that finally tells the story. Like, to me, systems engineering is truly storytelling, and that's why I love it so much. And then I come home and I do schoolwork, but that's my life right there.
Oh my gosh. Like, do you have time to explore other hobbies, or basically does this occupy your entire time and attention?
It's been a lot lately. And it's one of the things I've really wanted to get back to. I got the cube, so I do that a lot. But I also used to be big in Taekwondo, and I haven't been able to do that. So I really want to get back to that. The working out thing, that's a big thing for me because I used to love it, and now I'm getting back into it. I'm reading again. So it's one of those that I definitely think you can let it consume your life. You know what I mean? You have to be able to set those boundaries and, say, no, I'm going to focus on the me stuff. So I can't say I'm doing that well right now, but I can tell you I'm working on it. So I'll get there.
That's cool.
I'm still learning.
Are you a morning person or a night owl?
Oh, I'm such a night owl. Night owl. Like my entire dad's side of the family, that's like how we run. So I've been trying to get up early because I am more productive in the morning if I can get up. But oh man, getting out of bed is like
I know. I feel you. I used to, oh my God, I got better at it. But before it was such a pain for me to get up. And it's true. Unfortunately, you get more things done in the morning than at nighttime, I guess, depending on what you do. But it's just always good. And
you build the habit, you get more used to it, but it's still like, or I could just sleep.
Yeah. And it's so tempting, especially when there's like bad weather or it's like rain season, especially here, it's rain season now. And it's like, oh, I dread every morning, but I have to, I really have to. Oh, so what's next for you? I know you say you want to be an astronaut and everything, but like in the next 3 years, like, do you have any specific goals you want to reach, any plans, or are you just like, going with the flow?
Yeah, I really don't like you calling me out like that because it feels like I should have my life together.
I know, it sounds like a job interview. Now that I think about it.
Yeah, no, I'm just kidding. I think, okay, so let's say next 3 years, more than anything, I'm looking forward to graduating. So I think when I do get my degree, I'm going to do a reset, a recalculation of what I want to be doing. Some of the things I'd like to pursue, I really like my job where it is right now. It's absolutely amazing working on this program. So I think I'm pretty comfortable in my job, but I do want to pursue more education. And I haven't decided what that looks like yet. I'd be really interested in a PhD program or perhaps a second master's. And the two areas I'm really interested, as I mentioned, is planetary geology. And then basically the psychology of team building of like basically a crew in space, what would go into that crew, what makes a productive crew. So those are the two areas I'm kind of like, okay, what are we thinking here? I'm also really into the analog thing. I'd love to continue to do that, but do it on a scale of like science communication, and allowing everyone to come in and do that kind of work. I think that's something that I didn't realize about myself, but bringing everyone in together, being kind of that like glue so that everyone can go do what they want to do. I've really enjoyed that. So I don't know how that plays into my future, but I'm sure there's gonna be some of that too. I guess, I don't know. I think if you ask me that question in about 4 months, I might have a better answer after I've graduated. But for now, kind of what you said, I think I kind of know the general direction, but more than anything, I'm just kind of, if an opportunity presents itself, I'm the type of person to say, sure, why not? How much water do I need to bring?
That's cool. That's cool because sometimes plans don't work out. At least for me, I've learned in my own personal career life that, a lot of the things that you thought you wanted, you no longer want it after 2 years or, you no longer like, and that's what happened to me with finance. I thought I really, really wanted to do it. And then I actually started working in finance and I was like, this is not my call. Thank God I did another minor in business, but
It's not a failure because you learned that, you know what I mean? You just keep, okay, not that, that's fine. Let's go on to the next thing. Let's go explore a little bit.
Yeah. Especially when you're young, you're just like, you can take those, you can basically take another route and find out what you like. So that's good. All right. Last question for you. What would you tell a girl who wants to pursue your career? What can she start doing? Let's say a girl in elementary school or high school.
I would say the biggest advice I can give is to pretty much mentally prepare yourself for what's going to happen. And not because it's hard or anything like that, but because it's going to be like figure out what you want to do and hold on to yourself. Find your North Star, your guiding flame, or whatever you need, and keep working towards that, because it's going to get hard. It's going to be like, you're going to question it. You're going to say, is this really what I want? So go back to that moment when you like decided you want to go into space or whatever, and be like, yes, this is what I'm holding on to. That's something that I think I very much really benefited from, of being like, okay, reset, this is what I want. Yeah. And then more of like a kind of like education level. I mean, for me, at least, it's been like, you are never not a student. You are always learning, whether you have a degree or not. Yeah. Always keep questioning, always keep learning. And that's how you kind of develop the mindset of an engineer, even if you never get an engineering degree.
Yeah, I love that. Very nice. You're like full of knowledge, even though you don't, maybe sometimes you don't give yourself credit, but it's like, yeah, you sound very knowledgeable.
I pretend very well.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me. I really enjoyed talking to you, and I'm rooting for you. I hope you go to space one day, and I'll be clapping and sharing pictures. And I'm sure, everything that you do is going to work out fine. So thank you so much.
I appreciate that so much. And this has been so much fun.
I know.
We need to catch this is awesome. This is a great way to spend an evening. So thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for listening to this episode. You liked what you heard? Tell me what you liked in the review section. And if you want more episodes like this, please share your suggestions. After this episode, I invite you to follow the Invernadero Mind Podcast Facebook page, where you'll be able to find show notes, resources, and other information about this episode. I can't wait to see you there.